Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Arnie Milken. I am the Managing Director of Customs Manager Ltd, and I'm so excited that you're able to join us today. I'm also a very proud liveryman of the World's Traders, so that is a special welcome to the worshipful company of World Traders and those that could join us today. I am so extremely pleased to welcome participants from many different industry sectors to our celebration today, and from many countries, in fact, not only in the European Union and the UK, but worldwide, from Canada to India and around the globe again. Today is a really important day. It's an important event, and I'm grateful that you take the time out of your busy schedule to join us today and to listen to some insightful and enlightening speeches and be inspired by female thought leadership by the people that make and shape customs policy, customs law, and manage day-to-day customs operations. And I am beyond excited that we are joined today by very high-profile leaders, panel of customs specialists and world traders to mark the occasion of International Women's Day. Before we start, just very briefly, 3 quick admin remarks. Please take a moment now to verify that your microphone is on mute and that your video is off. The speakers are, of course, invited to unmute and switch on their video for their remarks. Secondly, Madame Perola and Madame Lynch have kindly agreed to answer questions. My esteemed colleague Enrica Naujoke will manage and lead this session right after their contributions. For this, we invite you to exclusively use the chat function and post your questions into the chat, which Mrs. Naujoke will then read and can present to the speakers. Finally, if you could not join us, well, then we welcome you to the live recording of this session and invite you to share it, like the video, and subscribe to our channel to enable more female leaders and women in customs and global trade to review this event. And with that said, I am now beyond excited and delighted to welcome the esteemed Lady Mayoress of the City of London and fellow world trader, Mrs. Elizabeth Mainelli, to open this event and deliver your welcome remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Arne. And well, thank you very much for this very enthusiastic welcome. I am Elizabeth Mainelli, the Lady Mayoress of the City of London, and I'm delighted to open Customs Managers International Women's Day event. While I prefer to meet face-to-face, it is fantastic to come together virtually, so even more people can participate, no matter where they are. Across the globe, thousands of events are taking place today to celebrate women's achievements, raise awareness about discrimination, and take positive action to drive gender parity. And as a patron of the City of London's Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls, I am so happy to get involved. Today, we're shining a spotlight on the essential contributions that women make in customs management and global commerce. Today's theme, inspiring inclusion, is so important to us here in the city. Inclusion sits at the heart of the work of the mayoral charity, the Lord Mayor's Appeal, and the Lord Mayor's theme for his year in office, Connect to Prosper, which is a call to action for all of us to build bridges, forge connections, and foster an environment where every individual can thrive. I'm so grateful that several prosperous women are with us today. Carol Lynch, who leads the BDO customs practice in Dublin, Enrica Naujoke, a customs entrepreneur par excellence, and Deputy Director Perola, who will talk to us about her important work on EU customs policy. Ladies, your achievements set a benchmark for excellence and inspire a new generation of women to achieve greatness in their careers. Women bring unique perspectives, innovative ideas, and a collaborative spirit that drives progress in customs and global commerce. But more needs to be done to get talented women into the right jobs and to ensure they can progress in their chosen careers. As a start, we must talk more about what female success in customs looks like. Sharing stories of triumph and challenge celebrates achievements and paves the way for mentorship, guidance, and support for women embarking on similar paths. So thank you to everyone sharing today. As we celebrate International Women's Day, let us commit to not only applauding the achievements of women, but also fostering an environment where every woman has the opportunity to achieve her full potential. Let us be inspired by the theme of today's celebration to connect more deeply, support each other more fervently, and prosper together in a more inclusive world. I wish you a successful event. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Lady Mayoress. And now I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Madame Perola, to address us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arne, for having invited me to take part in this very important event. I am extremely proud and honored to be with you today and to share my own experience in customs in the European Commission, and to share also with you, if time allows, some elements of an important project which is now occupying all my time, and which is the customs reform. For supporting this presentation, I have prepared a short PowerPoint presentation, and I would like to start maybe with myself. I will try to put sorry to be. I have a little problem of. Just a second, please. I have, of course. Okay, I will. I wanted to activate the presentation slide, but it doesn't work. So I will start with.
If you want, on the bottom right.
No, unfortunately, it does not appear on the bottom right. It's
okay. All right.
So like this.
No problem.
It's the problem of this.
Okay.
Okay, now it's okay. I think I managed to find it. I will start with some pictures of a city that you may know, but it's my city of birth, and my city of birth is Le Havre, and you can see some pictures of the harbor. And my involvement in customs is very closely linked to my family's history. My father was a ship owner representative in Le Havre. He was operating with some ship lines, especially coming from and going to the western coast of Africa. And I was used at the time to accompany him on the harbor. I was really fascinated by the organization and the logistics of the harbor. And although I was a lawyer, I was a 22 years old graduated lawyer. I had followed a maritime course. And I said to him one day, well, I would like to do exactly the same as you do, because your job is absolutely fascinating. He was doing quite a wide range of activities. He was taking care of the crew. He had to find clients in order to upload goods and containers on roll-on, roll-off vessels, because a vessel cannot just leave the port being empty. He had to take care of the customs formalities. He had to take care of some difficult tensions also in the ports with other professions. And I found his jobs absolutely attractive and fascinating. But surprisingly, he said to me that I should not do the same job as he was doing because I was a woman and it was not a job for a woman. At the time in the port, there was only one woman operating as a ship owner representative, and he was used to say to me, she's obliged to behave as a man in order to be respected. So I'm just reporting this anecdote because we are in the International Women's Day, but I would like to say that his purpose was really to protect me. It was absolutely not negative. He just wanted to protect me against situations which were very critical for him. But he said also something very important to me the same day. He said, Michelle, what you should do is to become a customs official. You should pass the competition for becoming a customs inspector because it's a fascinating job. I am used to work every day with the director, the regional director of customs, in order to help him identifying risky consignments by giving him in advance bills of lading so that he can identify what needs to be controlled when containers arrive on the port. And he said to me, I'm pretty sure you will do a brilliant career if you join the customs, and maybe one day you could go to Brussels to the European Commission. So he was visionary, I would say, at the time. And this is what I did. I did a journey from Paris to Brussels. First, I passed the customs official competition. I followed a full year of training in Neuilly-sur-Seine. At the time, the French customs school was in Neuilly-sur-Seine, close to Paris. Now it is in Tourcoing, and you can see a picture of the Tourcoing customs school on the left-hand side of my slide. And after 1 year, I became customs inspector, and I was hired in the Paris headquarters, where I dealt with temporary admission of means of transport. And very quickly after I was recruited in Paris, my boss one day said to me, Mrs. Pirola, Brussels, the European Commission, is looking for a French seconded national expert for writing a regulation for temporary admission of means of transport. So if you're interested, you can apply for such a post. And this is what I did. But I was convinced at the time that I would go only for 3 years, and then I would come back to Paris again and to continue my career in the French customs administration. But just after a few months spent in Brussels in DG Taxud, which at the time was called DG 21, I found myself so well that I decided to stay. And at this time, I was really lucky because at this time there was the organization of a competition, a customs competition that I passed, and I stayed at my post. I started my career as administrator at my post in 1992. So this is why this slide shows the journey from Paris to Brussels, and I have never left since then. DG21, DG Taxud, and the European Commission. And why did I do so? Why is it so fascinating working for the European Commission, for the EU? The first element that I could really see there is that you can create and construct, and it takes shape. When I arrived, I was given a file, but after 1 year, my portfolio had doubled just because I was enthusiastic. I discovered a world where you have a lot of autonomy in your files. I discovered I could, just by my competence and my passion, contribute to something bigger than me. And as I was becoming a real reliable colleague, I was given more and more work. And this is how it works in the Commission. It continues to work like this. When you see a colleague arriving who is willing to contribute, who is committed, you have a tendency to give him or her more work because it is just rewarding. And after 1 year, I was given not only the full temporary admission file, but also some additional tasks in the international arena. Just after 6 weeks, I had to chair an international meeting with 12 member states, and I had never done this before. But I was thrown into the big bath, and I had to learn to swim by myself. And that was really fantastic. This is something I have experienced during all my career, and I will have another slide later on where I can speak a little bit more of the evolution of my career in the European Commission. The second aspect, which I find fascinating in Brussels, in the European Commission, is that you collaborate, you negotiate, and you compromise in a multicultural environment. Since 1992 now, I work with a large variety of colleagues coming from a large variety of countries. And inevitably, when you work in such an environment, you are influenced by these other behaviors. And even if you stay French or Irish or German, you gain in some, you are enriched by these other influences. And I have met people that I would have never met if I would have stayed in France. I managed to organize, to chair hundreds of committees and expert groups, meetings, workshops, seminars, and all of that gave me and continues to give me a lot of energy, a lot of pride, a lot of honor. And this is something that I value a lot, because in the end, we are all able to compromise all the time, even within our services, between ourselves, between the units, between the colleagues, we always compromise. And I must say that I can observe that there is a high level of intellectual honesty. When we publish a document, when we publish a figure, it has been checked, it has been verified, and it is something that is never fake. So this is something that I like also a lot. We also contribute to economic and social growth. I had the chance, I realized this very quickly in my career, that I was working for something much bigger than me, that I was working, and I had the chance also to be there at the time where we were creating and building the EU as it is today, with the Eurozone, the single market, the various enlargements which contributed to stabilize the political situations of the newcomers, their economical uprise. I could see also year after year all the policies we have put in place, the capacity we had to deal with the COVID, the capacity we have today to deal with the war in Ukraine, and always with a very quick adaptation, flexibility. And this is something which is extremely valuable. I have the feeling to work for a purpose, and for working for an EU that works better, that protects its citizens, and that protects its entrepreneurs and its international trade. And I will come back to that later when I will speak about the customs reform. And finally, this is something we should never forget. It is the primary objective of the creation of the EU. It is to contribute to maintain peace on the European continent. And we know how fragile it is. We have the war at our doors now. It was created after the Second World War. I was born after the war, but my parents were suffered from the Second World War. They were children at the time. My city of birth suffered a lot of the Second World War, and we should never forget that in the end, we are working for that. So in itself, it is a purpose, and it is a purpose I believe a lot in, and that I have also, that I'm teaching also to the younger people, and that we should never forget. Another aspect that was very important for me staying in the European Commission is that in the European Commission you can evolve continuously throughout your career. If I would have stayed in my initial domain, I could not have done something else than just the customs, because it was like this in my administration. But in the Commission, if you decide to do something else, you can do something else. From my side, because I was passionate about customs and I liked very much my DG, I have decided to never leave it. But I could have done so. I could have gone to another DG. I could have gone to agriculture, to the single market, to the SecGen, to the legal service, or to DG Home, for example. But I decided to stay. However, I have done several different things in my career. After 6 years in the customs, where I contributed to the first customs code, which was enacted in 1992 for creating the single market, I have also done the first guide for risk analysis, and I have written the first regulation for penalties. I have also coordinated activities for international conventions in the WCO and the United Nations. I decided to do something else. And I went to the excise duties, where during 7 years, I became a business project manager, and I have developed the excise movement and control system instrument, IT systems. I discovered the IT at this occasion. EMCS is a very wide system, very similar to NCTS. I have also exerted my skills of a lawyer by writing and negotiating a new directive on administrative cooperation for better fighting against excise duties fraud, and for allowing member states to better cooperate together. And after this fundamental experience where I learned a lot, because when you deal with IT, you enter into a new world, I thought it was time for me again to do something else. And then I moved completely to the direct taxation arena, staying in DG Tax Sud and not leaving my DG. And there, during 10 years, I've been head of sector, where I developed quite many instruments for fighting against direct tax fraud and tax evasion. For example, I put in place the EU Savings Directive by developing automatic exchange of information. I have also developed a series of IT instruments for allowing member states to exchange information on request or automatically. And for that, I have imported a lot of tools from the customs into the tax arena. For example, I have also written and negotiated the Directive on Administrative Cooperation that we call DAC, DAC 1 and DAC 2, where for the first time we have repealed bank secrecy, where for the first time we have created the automatic exchange of information for quite a series of income from salaries, from pensions, but also immovable properties. And I have been the OECD the European Commission representative in the OECD in Paris, where the elements of the DAC 2 were negotiated. The OECD has developed a standard of transparency that we were the first region in the world to integrate into the DAC 2, and I was there at that time. It was a fascinating period, and I have discovered a completely new world. But at the same time, I should say that customs and tax are closely linked together. And it's not at random that customs and tax are in the same DG. Because during all these years, I used a lot the facilities of cooperation which were foreseen by two spending programs, the customs program and the fiscalis program. I decided to apply for a post, for a position of head of unit. And in 2015, I became the head of the unit of the customs and fiscalis unit, which at the time was only customs and fiscalis and training, because I wanted to prepare the next generation of programs. And not only I prepared the next generation for customs and fiscalis, but I was also very influential in creating a completely new program with a sum of 1 billion over 7 years for equipping customs with soft detection technologies, instruments like scanners and automated number plate recognition systems, just to quote a few. This is the Customs Control Equipment Instrument, the CCEI. So in the end, in the current MFF, multi-annual financial framework, DigiTax Sud has doubled its spending activities with 2.5 billion and has 3 programs over 37 programs. And I was extremely proud to have prepared and negotiated these 3 programs. At the same time, and because I believe a lot in training, I have developed a number of tools in order to promote customs and taxation training in the EU. The human competency framework, with the help of a very skilled head of sector at the time, and the human competency framework for taxation, so one for customs and one for taxation, plus a series of e-learnings which were very helpful for all our colleagues in the customs and tax administrations, but also for the economic operators. And these tools are still there, and they are maintained for being always up to date. And in 2020, because life is a circle, I went back completely to customs again, because in 2020, I became the head of unit of the customs policy unit. Of course, it was not the best year for becoming head of unit at the time, because we were just at the beginning of the COVID. Being the head of the customs policy unit means being in contact constantly with the member states, with the European Parliament, with economic operators, with the civil society. And of course, the contacts were limited to Zoom, to WebEx, and to Skype or Teams, and it was not the best for creating networks. But nevertheless, I managed, with also a very skilled colleague who left the Commission since then, to make adopted by the College of the Commission a customs action plan containing 17 actions until 2025 in order to bring forward the customs to a better level. And among these 17 actions, there is one action which is particularly important and which foresees the possibility to create one day a customs agency. This customs action plan led to, through several other steps, to a proposal for a customs, to a reform of the customs union, which was adopted on the 17th of May 2023. And for that, for preparing this, I had been appointed head of the task force, which prepared during 14 months this customs reform. And I have worked with around 10 very brilliant colleagues to prepare this customs reform. I would like just to mention two names because they have been really very fundamental to help me in this adventure. Vanessa Hernandez Guerrero, who is the deputy head of the Customs Legislation Unit, and Colin Horan, who is my team leader for customs policy. We had other very brilliant colleagues. It has been a fantastic adventure. First, we managed to table a completely new code. And second, it has been also a human adventure. Now I am in charge of the negotiations with a small team as well in the Council and in the European Parliament. And in addition, I am also in charge of the WCO modernization coordination for the EU part, and also of the EU Ports Alliance. I think an item was on the agenda of the Trade Contact Group yesterday to explain what we do with that. Before I go to the next slides, which are devoted to the customs reform, I would like to say that I had the chance to evolve in an environment where women are have their place. When I started my activities as administrator in the 90s, we were only 12% of women being administrators. Today, we have reached equality in numbers with men being administrators. We have, I think, also reached equality in numbers for middle managers. We have more or less the same numbers of women being middle managers as men in the European Commission. We still have progress to make for senior management, but it is in good progress. And I would like to say that the European Commission pays a lot of attention to having equality of treatment. We have a lot of networks for equality of chances in each DGs. We have exactly the same salaries when we are at the same grade and the same step. So there are absolutely no differences. Inappropriate behaviors are really scrutinized, and we have a strict legislation on that and in the European Commission. So I have never felt being less well treated because I was a woman. What I have felt is that when you want to progress, when you want to work, when you demonstrate your competencies, your skills and your capacities, you are given the possibilities and the chances to progress. And I know it is not the case in other places. But I wanted to report that for the European Commission because I had the chance to be in a safe environment, and I continue to be in a safe environment. And that is something important to say for young people who want to join the European Commission, that being a woman is not an impediment. It's all the contrary. It's really an environment which is very positive for women. So this is what I wanted to say about me, but I wanted also to come to this very, very important aspect where I have developed quite a number of elements. And I will start with a slide that some of you have already seen. We are not, with the customs reform, we are not starting from scratch. First, we have the UCC, which was adopted in 2013, which is a sort of computerization and simplification of the MCC that was itself adopted in 2008. And already in 2019, we started to think about the future in an exercise which is the foresight, which tried to figure out what would be the future of customs in the EU 2040. It led to the Customs Action Plan I was mentioning before. And in 2022, in Digitax Sud, we set up the Wise Persons Group, which examined what was the situation of customs and formulated a series of 10 recommendations. And on that basis, we set up the task force I was mentioning. I was appointed the head of the task force, and we adopted the proposal in May 2023. And all that was already put forward by the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who wanted at the beginning of her mandate to put the customs to the next level. So I think with the customs reform, we managed to go to the next level. Why is customs so important? We are the guardians of the single market. We are the first line of defense. If a good which is not compliant enters or leaves the EU, we are at the front door, and we have to ensure that such goods do not enter or do not leave the EU. And that's the reason why we are in close contacts with quite a number of policies. And without the customs union, without the customs authorities, without this first line of defense, the other policies could not develop so much or so well. And that's why we need to make sure that we really protect the single market. So you can see on this network the number of policies we are in contact with, and we need to reinforce our capacity of control and enforcement because this is of strategic importance. But we have also realized, and this has been put forward by the Wise Persons Group and also by our impact assessment, that we are squeezed between a series of increasing elements. First of all, we have more and more tasks to deliver. The number of non-fiscal legislation is increasing. We have 350 legislation to verify today, and this number is growing. We have quite a number of new legislations in the pipeline, and therefore the responsibility is growing as well. On the other hand, a phenomenon which has been accelerated by the COVID, but which would have inevitably been there anyway, is the number of declarations which are stemming from e-commerce that also customs authorities have to verify and have not the capacity to verify. And we know that quite a number of non-compliant goods are entering through e-commerce. We have to add to that customs processes are very complex, but we have quite a fragmented and costly digitalization. We have numbered 111 different IT systems in the EU that cost to the Commission budget, to the member states budget, to the economic operators budget. But we have to maintain that work in silos that do not communicate together and do not allow to have a complete overview on the supply chains. And finally, we have a fragmented governance structure. Despite the fact we have a unique UCC, we have quite many implementing acts, quite many delegated acts, a lot of guidance, which is done at EU level. We have 27 member states customs administrations, and economic operators operating through different member states are not or are confronted sometimes to different customs formalities. And of course, this is not sustainable over time. It leads to the revenue lost. We know, for example, that we don't have a clear idea of the customs gap. We know that the e-commerce threshold is abused. We have an incomplete supply chain control. and we have non-compliant and illegal products entering this single market. So the customs reforms is about I would say, three main elements. The first element is to make customs much simpler. It's to offer simpler customs processes, simpler customs formalities to legitimate trade by enlarging drastically the number of facilities which is offered to them today, by allowing them, for example, to do customs formalities on behalf of customs authorities, to pay customs duties at regular intervals. This in exchange of greater transparency over their supply chain and by offering a better overview on this supply chain. That would allow customs authorities to become stronger, to have a better approach to risk analysis, to better anticipate goods which are entering into the customs territory or leaving the customs territory. So these two aspects reinforce each other. What we want to build in the end, it's an EU risk management approach. It's also to make a tailor-made e-commerce regime. And it's in the end to reduce compliance costs. It's to allow traders operating through different member states to be treated the same way. So it's to have customs acting as one. But that supposes we have two key enablers. Without these two key enablers, our objectives will not be fulfilled to the extent we would like them to be fulfilled. The first one is to have a completely different approach to what we call IT. Instead of speaking of IT system, we need to have an approach based on data and to have a hub where all data coming from all various and different sources are treated together, are processed together using artificial intelligence and using algorithms and allowing customs authorities to have a much better view on what is going to enter or to leave the EU territory. The sources of information are, of course, the traders, but also the customs authorities themselves, the results of controls. It's also open sources, sources from other authorities. It's a better and more structured cooperation with these other authorities, between the customs authorities and these other authorities, being market surveillance authorities, law enforcement authorities, tax administrations. All that should allow having a much better view. The second key enabler is to have an additional layer between the European Commission and the customs authorities having boots on the ground. It's the creation of an EU customs authority that would construct and manage the data hub and do EU risk management at EU level. Being able to extract valuable information from the data hub and making recommendations of controls to the customs authorities having boots on the ground. If we manage to do that, we will have really a revolution of the customs since its creation in 1968. The timeline is ambitious, at the same time, sometimes criticized as being too long, but we need to give time to the construction. The proposal was adopted last year. We are in the process of negotiation. We hope to finish the negotiation with the co-legislators as quickly as possible. Hopefully this year, maybe next year, because after that, we need to start building. And we need to start building in order also to get money from the next MFF. What we want is that in 2028, the Commission would have already built the first element of the data hub for e-commerce purposes, would have set up the seed and the first practical aspects of the EU Customs Authority, so that in 2028, the EU Customs Authority assumes its tasks, start doing risk management, continues to build the data hub for what remains to be built. And in 2032, Trust and Check Traders, it's the new brand that we have imagined and put into the proposal for representing this highly legitimate trade that will be transparent to the Customs Authority, that will give information on their supply chain, and that in exchange will benefit from a large variety of simplifications. This Trust and Check can start using the EU Data Hub on a voluntary basis. Other traders could also start using the Data Hub on such a voluntary basis. All that will lead us to 2038, where the Data Hub will be mandatory for all traders. So it means that we have ahead of us around 14 years for accomplishing the customs union in 2040, and this is what we expect to have. So this puts an end to my presentation. I just would like to thank you again, Arne, for this invitation. It is an honor to be there. And I must say, it has been and it is an honor and pride for me to have developed my career. I'm sure my father would be very proud that what he was predicting for me became true in the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this enlightening and wonderful presentation. And it is extremely interesting to hear how your career evolved and how you got to where you are, and to be able to talk to us and for you to shape, and for you and your excellent team to shape the biggest reform of the customs union since its inception is just beyond inspiring. So thank you very much, and I hope everybody enjoyed this presentation greatly. We are going to extend our meeting a little bit to allow everybody to speak. And so if you can stay with us, that would be terrific. You're most welcome. I would expect us to go a little bit over half an hour longer than we are expected, but this was so insightful, and what a rare opportunity it was also to hear directly from the people creating this large reform what their vision is. And you know, Michelle, one thing that I noticed when you were speaking is your passion. That passion that started when you started your career is there, and I can feel that how deeply you want to make this work, and it's a complex task, and yeah, we all root for you for sure. And with that said, I want to switch gear, because customs policy and customs reform is so important. But there is also day-to-day operations of businesses that need to make this happen and put this into place. And without one excellence at policy level, they can't operate. But without excellence in business, managing customs, managing things like classification, origin, valuation, data integrity, there's no customs union either. The business, trade, customs authority partnership is crucial to make the EU customs union work. And there is no one better placed to speak to that than the partner of one of the largest and most influential business advisory, taxation, and customs firms in the world today. I've been so fortunate to work with her for a number of years now, and now I am so honored to present to you Mrs. Carol Lynch, partner at BDO in Ireland, and a female thought leader in customs par excellence, for your way to explain us how you made it to partnership and how if you can, other women can too. Carol, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Aaron. I hope I lived up to that, excellent introduction. So I will do my best. And I've got to follow Michelle, so I'm really like stuck here between two very influential people. So I'm going to talk really about the other side, as Aaron has said, in terms of the customs business aspect and how to, I suppose, develop a career as a customs consultant. And I suppose the first thing I would say is I did not actually grow up wishing to be a customs consultant. That happened by chance. I actually decided to be a historian and then an archaeologist, and then made the jump from that kind of research-based career to customs in my early 20s. And the reason probably for that was that the research skills are so fundamental. So I always kind of wondered initially when I joined PricewaterhouseCoopers as to why they would take on a historian / archaeologist to be a customs consultant. And my boss at the time told me it was because of the research ability and the research skills. And I think that's one of the critical aspects in relation to customs consultancy. And particularly over the last, I would say over the last 5 or 6 years, the legislation has grown a lot more complex and there's a lot more of it. So I mean, I remember, 10 years ago, you might not see a new customs regulation for, a couple of months. Now it's, I think, 2 or 3 every day. So you really have to be able to keep up with the actual legislation that's coming out, and also not only be aware of the legislation that's coming out, but also be able to interpret it. So in terms of I suppose that's a long way of saying, in terms of becoming a customs consultant, one of the critical aspects of it is the requirement to become a subject matter expert. So you really do need to focus in on your chosen area, in this case, customs, and you need to really immerse yourself in it. So there's a lot of time in a day goes into reading, understanding the legislations that's coming out, learning from other people's points of views, getting discussions going within our team. We do that a lot as well. And everybody has a different point of view, which is important to take on board, particularly when you're trying to analyze a piece of legislation and apply it in an operational sense to a company situation. So that would be, I suppose, my first thing in terms of how to become a successful consultant is you really need to put the work in and the time into building and developing that expert knowledge. And that is one of the fundamentals that you just simply can't get around. And that takes time, as with every kind of area of expertise. It takes time to build that. And how would you go about building that is really to learn from your peers, learn from other people in the business, and work in companies that have dedicated customs departments. So it's very hard to pick it up on your own. It's a very hard individual learning skill. You really have, because there's so many different aspects to customs. You're talking about legislation, operations, science, technology, IT skills. So you do need to have people around you with various skills and be working in that environment if at all possible. And join networks. So you make sure that you become part of networks that are focused on customs areas. So in Ireland, we have things like a number of revenue committees that I would sit on. There's the Irish Business Employers Confederation, IBAC, the British Irish Chambers. So join the networks that are around you as well, because you'll always learn from the people at those networks, and you'll be able to communicate in real kind of business sense, because you really have to be able to look at the rules, look at the legislation, but not just interpret them for their own sake. As I said, you're looking to make sure that they apply in a real world context. So how do you apply them to the actual situation that a client has? And I find that one of the most successful aspects of being consultants is once you've learned, and you're always learning, so I can't really say once you've learned, when you're learning, that you need to be able to explain that regulation or that legislation in a simple way. You need to be able to explain it in such a way that the person, in our case, the client that you're explaining it to, doesn't need to have a customs degree to understand it. So you need to be able to explain it in a way that the client will understand, and in a way that's relevant to them, that's relevant to their business and what they're actually trying to achieve. Because at the end of the day, what we're all trying to do is make businesses successful. So we're trying, and we have we've got a large range of clients, both in the multinational sector and in the SME sector. And particularly with the SME businesses and businesses which are just growing, it's important that when you're advising them, you're aware of the fact that this is important. This is actually going to actually increase profits or decrease profits. And in a small business, that's hugely relevant. It's obviously relevant for multinationals, but it's more personal in a small business. And I suppose just to put that in context and give a little bit of background. So as I said, I joined PricewaterhouseCoopers after college, spent 7 years in there, and then transferred over to manage the KPMG customs business for another 8 years, and then started my own business. So I've seen it from both sides, from the very large kind of corporate multinational side to the small and medium-sized enterprise, where you're an owner-managed business running your own business, and the day-to-day operations of that are important and are kind of like a second job along with your customs expertise. And then obviously I noticed that I spent 8 years and then I move on, but then after another 8 years I moved into BDO, and the team moved with me from Crana in Cavan, and we started the customs unit in BDO, and I became a partner there. So I think that experience is really valuable. And that was the other thing I was going to say is important in terms of becoming a customs consultant, or probably any consultant, is to have that range of experience. If you can get the opportunity to work in different roles in different companies with different priorities, you get to see the customs aspect from different people's points of view, and you're learning different aspects. So some people will go into revenue, like our team is quite diverse, with people who came from revenue into the team, people coming from industry into the team, people from clearance into the team, from consulting into the team. So and they've all got different backgrounds, and building that different background yourself gives you that more in-depth knowledge. So again, going back to understanding the legislation, but being able to apply it, being able to see it from the company's point of view. So I suppose that in terms of how to become a customs consultant, I would say it's that critical mix of really learning your area, really having that technical expertise, but also being able to communicate in a way that people will understand what the impact of that legislation is, and also being able to understand the operational day-to-day running of a company and how that will actually be applied. So there's no point coming up with this great and wonderful idea that nobody can implement, or that takes 10 people in full-time employment to manage, because that's not going to be practical. So you have to look at it with all those three angles in mind. I think really that's probably, in terms of how to become a customs consultant, that's probably the three critical messages I would get out there. And in terms of how that led to becoming a partner in BDO, is it going to give you that background? I've got 30 years of experience in customs consulting, so I hopefully do have a level of customs specialism and subject matter expertise. And that's really what BDO as a company was building at the time, and is building now, is that subject matter expertise, so that we have our broad tax and accounting advisory service, but we are also building very strongly areas of niche expertise where we will shine, where we will have be able to advise companies in a way that other companies can't. So a very strong focus on that technical specialism that might not be available to you from every firm. So even if you're you could have an accountant or a lawyer who you work with, but they will actually come to us as well for the actual subject. So we do a lot of work with other accountants, with other lawyers, in supporting on the customs and trade side, and in our other kind of technical expertise areas or niche areas. And the other reason I joined BDO was also the company, and I think this goes back to kind of, in many ways, when you get to a point in your career when you can decide what it is you want. It's important to look at the companies that that you want to join and see, do they fit with your values, fit with your day-to-day lives? Because we all have two lives. We've one that's professional and business, but we also have another life, which is our home and our personal life. And if the two are in conflict, it's very difficult to manage on a day-to-day basis. So one thing I liked about BDO was there's very much a work-life balance belief. It's, the company does not believe in long evening hours or weekend working unless absolutely necessary. And we're very family friendly. And that comes out particularly I think this is probably something that's very important for women in particular, and particularly when you have young children, because you're always going to be at the beck and call of children being sick, tummy aches, need to go back to bed, can't go to school today, and it's just reality. And it could be the husband will take that up, it could be the wife, it could be, it doesn't really matter who it is. But the fact that if you're working in a company who can just say that's okay, if that's a priority for you, work around it, we'll fix it, you can make up your hours some other time. And I think particularly in this day and age, and I see it much more in the younger generation coming through, and in the world that as it's changing to also focus on not only just financial results, but also our impact in the world. How do we, what's our non-financial results? So looking at both together, I think that's a very positive step forward. That's gone off track a bit there, but I suppose what I was trying to say in becoming a partner, and I think for anybody who wants to become a partner or anything else, it doesn't really matter. Find what you're really interested in, find what you enjoy. And and I say this to my kids as well, I always have said to kids, if you can find whatever it is that you really enjoy, really like doing, then you'll be good at it. And it won't be a very different life to your home life, because you will have both kind of working together. And I think that's important for everybody. Find what you like, and find, in many ways, we say this all the time, what's your purpose? But even if we don't have a defined purpose in the world, find what you enjoy doing, put the time and effort into working at it, and become an expert in it, and balance your life with your priorities. And if you can find a place to work that supports that, then then you've got a good life. So in terms of becoming a partner, I know it's also that's kind of a rosy way of looking at things. It's also there's a lot of hard work and slog goes into it, and you do have to prioritize, and sometimes work over your other priorities. It doesn't come easy. There's no point pretending it does, but it's a very worthwhile achievement, in the long term, as long as, and I always caveat this, as long as you enjoy it. So I think that's important. And I suppose that's really in terms of, Arnie, you asked me, what tips I would give to women coming through. It's really that, it's, focus, learn your area, become an expert in it, because if you're an expert in it, you can take on anyone. Make sure you enjoy what you're doing at the same time. And also really important, build your network. So customs in particular is a very small world. In Ireland, there's probably 20 or 30 people doing it. Even in the world, there's not that many. So it's a very small, and you come across each other all the time. So build that network, go to the conferences, work with people that you do admire. And always remember that it's such a small world. No matter who you work with, you will always come back in touch with them again. So that's important in terms, and particularly as well, I think for women and other, women working with women, it's important to have that mentorship program, or get a mentorship program, be involved in mentorship, ensure that you're actually kind of providing an opportunity for, and I'd say women, but I really mean anyone, male, female, it's entirely irrelevant really. But make sure that you provide the same opportunities to everybody. Make sure that you support everybody, and be sure that you understand the different pressures that are on people. And just as life is, and it's probably maybe not so politically correct to say it, women do tend to have more pressures. They do tend to have more that they need to do, both at home and at work. So just be aware of that. I'm not sure if I can contribute a huge much more than that, but I suppose that's really my kind of path from out in the fields, digging up the archaeological sites really badly, I must say, because I really did not see the sites that I was supposed to be seeing, to working in the museum, and then to customs consultancy.
Thank you very much, Carol. I think Arne leaves now this part to me. As he said, and thank you very much. It was very inspiring, and I do believe everybody has taken a lot of thoughts out of your wonderful presentation and out of Michelle's wonderful presentation as well. And I did my silent presentation also all the time by inviting to think about our colleagues in Ukraine who are working under tough conditions. And Arne gave me a task to give several questions to you and to Michelle, and I was listening and thinking of many questions that I would like to address to both of you, but I picked actually 2 points which I would like also Arne to address. Arne, please also answer those questions. The one question, I'm from Lithuania, and I was thinking how about gender equality in Lithuanian customs, especially when Michelle mentioned that in the EU Commission, she feels very well that this is super balanced. In Lithuania, I would say that we feel also the same. I don't feel much difference between men and women in doing careers in this field. So the question, one part is to you all, how it is in your countries, how do you feel? And the second part of the question is simple, what would you wish for the women in the 2024? One wish to inspire, to achieve, or any thoughts on that aspect. So Michelle, if I can invite you.
Thank you very much, Enrica. On your first question, indeed, if I refer back to the European Commission, I have the feeling that gender equality is achieved at least until the middle management level. I'm speaking about the European Commission in its whole. And in TaxSud, it is a fact that we have really half of the heads of units who are females and half who are men. In my country, when I started in the customs school, it was the first year where women were so many in the session. We were 60 people in the session, and half of them were women. But it was the first year, because before that it was an acquis that customs was really a male profession. And it started at the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, where women are now very well represented in the French customs administration. I was attending a few weeks ago a visit by the French customs inspectors, the ones who are now in the session in Tourcoing. They are not yet inspectors, but there are students for becoming inspectors. And I could see in the room half of them being women, half of them being men. So it means that this balance also in France is now realized, and I could see women who were very motivated in becoming customs inspectors, and I could see really an appetite for that. Now, a wish for 2024 for women. My wish is that the situation I have the chance to live, I had the chance to experience, could be the rule everywhere, in all companies, in all domains, that there is an equality in salaries, that there is an equality in access to upper positions. I know it is not the case in some areas. And I think as long as we have not reached equality, we will have an International Women's Day. because we will need to promote our case. We will need to be there to defend this equality. Equality means that at equal competence, yes, it means that we will not have to fight anymore for our status because it would be recognized, and that's why it's so important to participate to these events, to continue to promote, to continue to push forward the case. And again, I'm very very grateful to honor to have organized this. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Carol, what about Ireland and what is your wish? We can't hear you, you are muted.
So there's a lot of gender equality in Ireland, and I think we're lucky in that, particularly when you look at the position of women in Ireland versus some of the territories, particularly globally, where women undergo a lot of difficulties and you know about wars and all the other violence that can happen. So we are in a very positive position, and there is real work being done to really promote the gender balance at senior levels. So I think that people are, and it's always, awareness is probably the first point. You know, the awareness is there that we need to increase our level of gender balance at senior levels, on boards, in partnerships. And the requirement, I'm not sure if it is in every country, but we have a requirement to produce a gender gap report every year, which also is important because it focuses the attention on whether there are increases in rates. And there are increases. So it's good, it's small year on year, but it is moving forward. So the critical, I suppose, the issue that we would have and in many companies and in my own is moving from that kind of middle management level to senior management, and that's really where a lot of the priority has to go. In terms of a wish for 2024, I suppose it's to continue that focus, that we don't lose focus. The world has become a very difficult place, and there's a lot of issues out there to focus on and to concentrate on, and a lot of injustice going on. So you're trying to balance so many areas at any given time. So I think my wish for 2024 in the context of Ireland, where we're, as I said, in a much more secure position than many other countries on a global basis, is to continue that increase in the proportion of women who are at senior levels, and to ensure that there's support there to allow that to happen. Particularly, and I see this as being one of the particular issues, is in the provision of creches and the cost of creches. Whereas you go to schools, students and kids start school, the school is free, but the creche before that is not, and that takes a huge amount out of your salary, and particularly if you've got 2 or 3 kids. So I think we need to look at those kind of issues.
Thank you very much, Carol. Arne, over to you.
Okay, so I'm a dual citizen of Great Britain and Germany, so I'll cover both. So first of all, what's my experience? Look, turning to the UK, both the chairs of the Joint Customs Consultancy Committee, the JCCC, the TCG equivalent, both chairs on the trade side and the administration HMRC customs side, they're both women. The Duty Liability Subcommittee of the JCCC is managed by a woman. So the customs partnership with the administration led by women in the UK. My clients, the majority of them are women. The head of customs and imports at the German retailer the large global German retailer that I know best in the UK is a woman, inspiring others to follow her lead. In Germany, the majority of the multinational global companies that I work with and have the privilege of working for are women. To me, I don't perceive customs, in Europe at least, as a currently male-dominated profession, quite the opposite. In terms of wish, my wish is to ensure that regard of gender, that we speak, disregarding gender, or not considering the specific role of gender here, that we speak up and we speak more about the customs profession in global context, and we continue to elevate the profession. Customs management and customs managers, as Carol said, are extremely rare. It's such a specialized field that requires many years to acquire mastery in it. So at the same time, our work is so crucial in ensuring that the products can move between borders efficiently and affordably. And without us, male or female, it is impossible for a global enterprise to flourish in international trade. So I think it's crucial to provide genuine career opportunities for customs managers, support gender equality, and of course inclusion, and be cognizant of male and masculine bias. And then if we attract, if we create an attractive work environment based on inclusion and non-discrimination, then any company across Europe and the world can ensure that the organization can benefit from compliant, effective, and efficient customs procedures, because in my experience, customs is effectively and proudly so now run by women. So therefore, any international business that trades products would benefit from supporting international women's day. It is in the interest of every business in the world. So that's my wish and my thought.
Thank you, Arne, and thank you very much for organizing this event. Very important, and indeed more customs union, not only in EU, but also in Europe and Ukraine as well, more peace in the world. So thank you to everyone, and Arne, over to you then.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your excellent Q&A session here and the really insightful questions as well. I would like to draw this wonderful celebration and event to a close. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our speakers and facilitators today. Thank you to Lord Mayoress, Lady Mayoress Elizabeth Mainelli, Deputy Director Pirula, and my highly regarded colleagues, Mrs. Lynch and Naoke, for your important and so valuable contribution. And you can see this, we are 90 minutes in the meeting and everybody's still here. It was an honor to meet with you today and all our esteemed participants that joined us, listened, and reflected with us on this important day. I am grateful that you prioritized this event over all your own engagements, which speaks to the high importance that we attach to International Women's Day, us, the people in customs, and also, of course, what it stands for. I trust that this virtual event, which was centered around two themes, number one, inspiration, and number two, inclusion, and embedded us to present positive stories of female success in customs, form stronger connections, and move forward together, supporting one another wholeheartedly and continuing to build a thriving community of customs specialists in a world that is more inclusive. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to all the speakers and participants. We'll put this recording online so you can review it and share it with those that want to or should see it. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon and enjoy the rest of International Women's Day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.